Okay, so there are two horror films which I've seen recently that I'm going to do a vlog on. And the first one is a film which I've wanted to see for a very long time because it's so controversial, and that is Antichrist. And it's directed by the, I think, Dutch filmmaker Lars von Trier. Now, if you don't know who Lars von Trier is, he is the self-proclaimed greatest living director on the planet. And when you look at his filmography, yes, he's made some very, very good films. However, for him to claim that he is the greatest living is a bit of a stretch. But anyway, Antichrist, when it came out last year, was incredibly controversial because of its violence, its gore, its very, very graphic nudity, its subject matter, but also, and I'm not sure if this is true, the rumour that it was real sex on screen. But I've always wanted to see it, so I watched it last night, and it's difficult to describe without giving the plot away. So if you want to see this film and are afraid of spoilers, don't keep watching. I mean, you may have stopped watching at the 5-second mark of my vlogs, but don't watch anymore if you're interested in seeing Antichrist. The plot itself is essentially Willem Dafoe and his wife, whilst having sex at the start of the movie, their son dies. Their son gets out of his crib. He's about three or 4 years old. He opens his bedroom window and just jumps out. So the couple are stricken with grief and guilt. You know, they feel it's their fault and that they should have been there to stop him. And Willem Dafoe is a psychologist, and his wife is going through the many stages of grief, and he's trying to counsel her with his expertise. And through counselling, he discovers that his wife has a fear, a very, very subconscious fear of a woods that she used to go to. And so he takes her to this woods where they also happen to own a cabin. And the film is structured in 3 acts. The first is grief, and grief is 40 minutes where Willem Dafoe is trying to help his wife get through this terrible, terrible tragedy. You know, he's trying to counsel her, he's trying to be there for her, and then the second chapter is pain. And pain is really where the controversy of the film, you know, starts. When they arrive at the cabin, Willem Dafoe is putting his wife through several stages of therapy. He's trying to cure her step by step, and it's starting to work. However, as the film progresses, it becomes much more violent, much more dark, much more graphic. And I wanted to talk about the gore in it. If you're a fan of gore, then go see Antichrist. I mean, if you loved Hostel, despite the fact that's a terrible film, then you'll love the gore in Antichrist. But at least Antichrist has some semblance of story. I think that Lars von Trier, I appreciate what he's trying to do in this film. I don't think it's his best work, but I appreciate the fact that in Antichrist he has created this feeling of hypnotism. And what I mean by that is, when you watch the movie, or at least when I did, you sort of are suddenly drawn in, and it makes you want to watch it again and again. There's a lot of slow motion shots in the film, which can last for several minutes, and Willem Dafoe is an excellent actor for voiceover, because a lot of these shots have his voice over them, and it's very, very good. I think this sense of hypnotism is difficult to talk about. You really need to see the film to try and get what I'm going on about. I think he's managed to do this through camera work and the score. There's not much music in the film, but what music there is, along with these certain shots, it can be really, really compelling, and it can you can lie back and just take it in and soak it all up. And it's something that could be played on in slow motion at a health spa, you know, something like that. Because a lot of these shots are very beautiful, but they're also very, very relaxing, despite the, you know, the context of the film. I also think that the setting is a very good one. The way he's staged these camera angles in this shack and this wooded area is very, very good, very, very clever, because the shots do go on, some for more than a minute, which is considered to be a very long time. But unlike with Resident Evil Afterlife, where you have all these incredibly long shots, which killed the pace and made it even more dull, with Antichrist, you have all these shots, but it's just adding to that level of hypnotism. And there is something sexual about that hypnotism. It's very difficult to describe, but a good example would be David Fincher's Seven. Now, if you haven't seen Seven, stop this vlog if you haven't already, and go watch Seven. Seven is a masterpiece. It was really the first film of its kind to bleach all of its colours. So everything is a sort of shade of brown and yellow, and we see that now in loads of films. We see that all the time. But in Seven, it was the first one to do that, and it gives it a very gritty and dark and grainy look, and it's wonderful for the story. With Antichrist, we have that grainy look and a bit of grit, but we've got a mixture of black and white and muted colours. And they work because of the shots, how they're framed. It's very clever, very, very clever. Willem Dafoe's performance is standard. I like Willem Dafoe a lot. I recently watched Animorph, and that was incredibly dull. But yeah, Willem Dafoe is very, very good. You do believe that he's a psychologist, and his voiceover is excellent. I don't know the name of his wife, a British actress, but she was very, very convincing, because it's really, the film's really about her and her trauma, and how she tries to deal with her son, and how she blames herself for losing her son. And so she really steals the show in many of the scenes. Now, going back to the rumour of real sex, I have no idea if it was real sex on screen. If it was, I doubt the film would have had the release that it did. It had a limited release, but I think it would have had even more limited one if it was a real porn film. But if it isn't real sex, then it is the most convincing fake sex you'll ever see in a film. And it's so well done, you do wonder, did they really do that? You know, would Lars von Trier have sex? I mean, I don't think, you know, any director should really have to put actors through that for a shot. I think you're probably better off trying to test the actor's ability in faking something like an orgasm. But I don't know whether it was real or not. If it was, then fair enough, Willem. But if it wasn't, it's very, very well done. So, Antichrist, it's incredibly violent, but not needlessly so. It's got explicit sex. The plot itself isn't very strong, but the way the camera is formed around it, and like I said, this feeling of hypnotism is very, very good. So go see it if you can.